Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving into something I think we all need more of. Inner peace, kindness, and forgiveness.
That's right. We're drawing from a really insightful talk by Ajahn Brahm. It was called Give Yourself Peace, Kindness, and Forgiveness from back in January 2021.
And we've basically gone through it to pull out the key stuff for you. If you like getting right to the core of things quickly but also thoroughly, this should be good.
Exactly. We've distilled the essence, the most, powerful and practical wisdom from it.
And it gets into some surprising areas too. We're talking like stressed out building surveyors finding peace in car parks.
Yeah. And his funny take on noble silence, things you might not expect.
So the goal, our mission really, is to figure out how you can actually use these ideas, how you can cultivate that inner peace, that self-compassion day to day.
Even when things feel, busy or overwhelming, which, let's face it, is often.
Definitely. Okay, so where do we start? You mentioned self-kindness as key.
Yeah, Ajahn Brahm kicks off with this relatable story about getting older.
Oh, right. The one where the other monks told him he wasn't getting old, he was already old.
Ah, yeah, exactly. And that little joke, it sort of sparked this deeper thought for him about needing to deliberately make time for yourself, purely out of kindness, out of compassion.
And he makes the point that even monks, people you'd think have peaceful lives sorted, they need this too.
Right. Which is really interesting, isn't it? It shows how universal this is. Even in a monastery, there are demands, you can get depleted.
So if they need it.
Then it really highlights how crucial it is for you, navigating maybe information overload, daily stresses, all that stuff. It's not a luxury, it's fundamental.
That really does hit home. And you mentioned the building surveyor finding peace. That sounds intriguing.
Oh, it's a great story. It really shows how peace can pop up unexpectedly. This guy, he worked for the local council, the Shire, and apparently got stressed quite easily.
Okay.
So his coping mechanism wasn't like formal meditation or asking for advice. He'd just drive over to the Bodhinyana monastery nearby and just park his car, sit there quietly for maybe, 15 minutes, half an hour.
Just in the car park, seriously?
Yeah. He apparently thanked Ajahn Brahm for the car park later, saying just the peaceful atmosphere of the place helped him calm down. No effort needed, just soaking it in.
Wow. So the environment itself can be enough.
That's the point he makes. It wasn't about intellectual stuff or techniques. It was the ambient peace giving him that respite.
So maybe for you listening, if you're feeling swamped, just finding a quiet spot, even for a few minutes.
It could make a surprising difference. Quick relief without needing to do anything special.
Which kind of leads to the next point, doesn't it? What is it about places like that? It's more than just the teachings, right?
Definitely. Ajahn Brahm talks about this underlying feeling you get. Acceptance, non-judgment, just basic kindness sort of radiating from the place.
Ah, okay.
And he suggests that experience, that feeling of being accepted, no strings attached, no judgment, that could be just as healing, maybe even more so than the information itself.
It's like you absorb the atmosphere, as he put it.
Yeah. And those big aha moments we sometimes look for, maybe they're not always intellectual. Maybe sometimes it's just that deep feeling of peace, of belonging.
That makes sense.
And this kind of deep connection, it doesn't just happen in monasteries. He shares this incredibly moving story from his own life about volunteering.
Oh, the one with people with Down syndrome, that really stood out.
Yeah. He admits he kind of started doing it because his Christian friends were, but it turned into this huge lesson for him.
About emotional intelligence, right? Where he wasn't expecting it.
Exactly. The whole dynamic flipped. He went thinking he was the helper, but he found this incredible emotional sensitivity in the people there.
He tells that specific story about his breakup.
Right. He hadn't said a word, was just feeling awful, and one of the guys just came up and gave him this incredibly knowing, comforting hug. Just knew.
It's amazing. It really makes you question assumptions, doesn't it, about who has emotional depth.
Absolutely. And it's such a contrast to the judgment or lack of empathy we can sometimes run into elsewhere.
It clearly taught him a lot about simple kindness and empathy.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, how often do we misjudge people's capacity for connection because of our own assumptions?
So from that really deep emotional stuff, he then kind of pivots to something lighter, but still important achievement and expectations.
Ah, yes, the meditation retreat grades. That was brilliant.
So funny. Tell us about that.
Well, he basically invented these grading categories for a retreat. arrogant, basic, excellent, and fantastic. But the definitions were all tongue-in-cheek and completely unexpected.
Right, undermining the whole idea of grading something so internal.
Exactly. It just perfectly shows how absurd it is to slap these external labels on, your inner journey. The point is, real progress isn't about getting an A, it's internal.
It really targets that tendency we have to constantly measure ourselves, measure others.
And the message underneath is just, accept yourself, see the value that's already there, which is frankly a relief if you feel like you're always supposed to be striving for more.
Yeah, a huge relief. It ties right back to that non-judgment thing. Let go of the scorekeeping.
Right. Create space for peace. It's exactly what you might need if you're feeling that pressure to perform.
And speaking of pressure, he also had some funny things to say about time, didn't he? Clocks and bells and things.
Oh yeah, very relatable. He admits he just doesn't like clocks.
Me neither sometimes.
And he even joked about wanting to take a slingshot to the meditation bell sometimes.
Because it breaks the peace, right? Just when you're getting into it.
Precisely. And his little wordplay, turning noble silence into no-bill silence.
Love that.
It's just a light way of pointing out how we get constrained by these rigid structures, these schedules, these external controls we often don't even question.
They could feel like a prison sometimes, can't they? Even small ones.
Totally. That desire to just stay in that quiet space without the bell jarring you out of it. Yeah, many people get that.
It definitely makes you think about your own relationship with time and maybe control.
And from those constraints, he then shifts to talk about the opposite, the freedom, the creativity that can actually come from a peaceful mind. He uses his writing as an example.
Right, he talks about trying to write this really difficult letter when he was stressed and tired.
Yeah, and getting nowhere, just forcing it, struggling.
But then
he just stopped, meditated for a bit, found some calm, and suddenly he said, a beautiful letter came out. Just like that.
effortlessly.
Yeah, and similarly with his book, Opening the Door of Your Heart. He wrote most of it during a peaceful retreat, and he describes the writing as just flowing easily, naturally, because his mind was relaxed, kind.
Such a contrast, trying to push through when you're tense.
It really challenges that idea that you have to grind constantly to be productive or creative, doesn't it?
It does. It suggests that sometimes stepping back, finding that inner calm, that's actually the key to unlocking things.
Cultivating peace can lead to better results, more fulfilling work.
And the story of how that book even got published is pretty amazing, too. Talk about unexpected outcomes.
Oh, it's quite something. He literally bumps into a publisher the day he arrives in Melbourne with the manuscript. Just happens to meet her.
Wow, talk about timing.
Right. And then the book becomes this surprise bestseller. He mentions it even outsold Harry Potter for time in one bookstore in Indonesia.
Get out. Really?
Yeah. It's just this great illustration of how when you kind of let go of trying to force things, let go of judging. Sometimes things just fall into place in ways you couldn't predict.
It adds this whole other layer, doesn't it? The power of just letting things unfold from that peaceful state.
Mm-hmm. In this idea of unexpected positive results, it loops back to kindness and compassion, too. He revisits the building surveyor story.
Reminding us how that peaceful environment helped him.
Yeah, and he tells another one about a woman who lost her car keys at the temple in Thailand.
Okay.
She was getting frantic, couldn't find them anywhere. She sat down quietly for a bit in the peaceful atmosphere and suddenly remembered exactly where she had left them.
So calm mind, clearer thinking.
Exactly. Little examples, but they show how peace helps.
Yeah.
And then he connects this outward kindness, creating peaceful places, being kind to inward self-compassion.
Which leads him to talk about mistakes and forgiving ourselves. That's a big one for a lot of people.
Oh, huge. He uses this very sensitive example of a woman really struggling with guilt over an abortion she'd had years ago.
And he approaches it with such empathy.
Yeah, he doesn't offer easy answers, but guides her towards self-forgiveness, reminding her that mistakes are for learning and everyone deserves kindness, especially from themselves.
That's a vital message.
And then there's that really unique story about the Thai couple.
Ah, yes, the one about the stillborn child and the birthmark.
Right. Now, he shares their belief that the child came back as their next daughter, recognized by this birthmark.
He doesn't endorse it as fact, though, right? He presents it as their way of finding meaning.
Precisely. He shares it impartially as an example of how people find peace, find solace, make sense of terrible loss in their own ways. It shows the human capacity to find comfort.
It's a really profound glimpse into that search for peace, however it manifests.
Yeah. And moving from finding peace after loss, he tackles another major barrier, feeling like you don't deserve peace or happiness.
Oh, the story of the nun. That was fascinating.
Wasn't it? This incredibly capable nun, brilliant in meditation, but she kept hitting this wall, couldn't go deeper.
And why was that?
Because deep down, she felt she didn't deserve that level of happiness or peace. That core belief was blocking her.
Wow. It really shows how our own self-perception can sabotage us, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It makes you ask, how often do we hold ourselves back from joy because somewhere inside, we feel unworthy?
That's a tough question.
Yeah. And he mentions, almost playfully, creating a happiness certificate.
Huh. A permission slip to be happy.
Kind of. A symbolic way to challenge that feeling, to give yourself permission. It's whimsical, but the point is deep. Challenge that inner critic.
I like that. Okay, so if we challenge unworthiness, what about guilt? We mentioned mistakes earlier.
Right. He brings in the Buddhist perspective here, which is basically, don't live in guilt. You acknowledge the mistake, you learn from it, and you move on. Dwelling on it doesn't help anyone.
Easier said than done sometimes, though.
True. But he uses humor again. He tells this story about chanting in an ICU.
Oh, dear. What happened?
Well, they were chanting, thinking they were helping someone have a peaceful passing, but apparently the family had planned this whole quiet, serene thing, and the chanting completely disrupted it.
Oh, no.
Exactly. But his point is, oops, mistake made, lesson learned, maybe even a funny story later. It's about not being paralyzed by the fear of messing up.
So letting go of guilt helps you be more open, less afraid of yourself.
Yeah, and if you're less afraid of your own imperfections, you can be more open and present with other people too.
Okay, that makes sense. So wrapping things up, he kind of reflects on why someone like you, listening now, would even engage with this kind of material.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he suggests it's maybe not just about getting new facts or information.
What else then?
It might be about the experience itself, the feeling of kindness, of encouragement that comes through.
Ah, like absorbing that atmosphere we talked about earlier, but through the message itself.
Exactly. And his final message is really direct, really affirming. It comes back to those core themes.
He basically says, you're okay. You're a pretty good human being, as he puts it.
Yeah. Regardless of what anyone else thinks, regardless of past mistakes, you deserve happiness. You deserve inner peace.
That's a powerful note to end on.
So just to quickly recap the big takeaways from Ajahn Brahm that we've explored today.
Okay.
There's the absolute necessity of self-kindness, finding peace in unexpected ways, just through presence. The huge impact of empathy, both giving and receiving.
Letting go of those rigid expectations, the need to always achieve. And forgiving yourself, moving on from guilt.
Right. Self-forgiveness, self-acceptance. Those are key.
And our aim here was really to pull out those valuable nuggets for you, hoping they resonate and maybe offer something useful for your own well-being.
Exactly. So maybe a final thought to leave you with.
Okay, let's hear it.
Think about one area, just one specific area in your life right now, where maybe you're holding back on giving yourself some peace or some kindness or forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
What's one small thing, one tiny step you could maybe take today just to start shifting that, even a little, something to think about?